Hey guys, on this video, we're going to talk about the comments that Greg McElroy had to say on his morning show in Birmingham today about our friend Alphonse Taylor, Shank, who was in studio earlier this week. And why it's worth talking about, well, I'm going to play you the clip and then I'm going to break it down for you. And I'm going to give Greg McElroy some advice moving forward. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up, guys, and let's get this started. Roll Tide. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. I'm Mick Gillispie at Broadcaster Mick, and this is going to be an interesting show, kind of a little different than what our normal shows are. But I wanted to talk about this earlier. What was it? Tuesday, we had Shank in studio, and it was a lot of fun on our Elephant in the Room podcast, part of Disrupt the Media. And then today, all of a sudden, my phone, my social started blowing up because of Greg McElroy, who is the host of the morning show on WJOX in Birmingham and a national championship Alabama winning quarterback. He's a quarterback of my favorite Bama team in 2009. And also he's an ESPN commentator. Comes from a wealthy family. Dad's been in professional sports. He's had a great life, and he's had a great career. And I think a guy who a lot of people pull for in the Bama community because he's kind of the face, right? I mean, if you're on ESPN calling the big action and you're on Birmingham on the morning. But this clip today is definitely worth talking about. And I want to talk about it for a few reasons. First off, I want to talk about it because what he said was wrong. And secondly, I want to talk about it because I want to give him some advice. Not that he would listen to me, but maybe he would. And maybe it'll make him a better commentator in the long run. But let me go ahead and play this for you guys from the start. It's just a little clip that is going around social media right now.
And I'm a little bit tired of this narrative that I don't like my school. I just kind of want to address it. I'm really fed up with it. I really am. All these clowns, the Barstool Bamas, the Crux Oxenweilers or whatever, the Alphonse Taylors, Shank, who I don't even remember playing at Alabama. I just remember him being described as the laziest dude on the roster. That's what I remember. That is trying to remain relevant, which is perfectly fine. I don't care. He uses Bama. I don't. So that's perfectly okay.
All right, so that's it, and that's going to be a quote and a comment that he's going to regret saying one day. Hopefully now, but I want to talk about it because I think there's some stuff that needs to be addressed. First off, I remember talking to guys who were teammates of his, guys that played, asking him on air about his comment that had Colt McCoy not gotten injured in the the national championship game, that he thought Texas would have won the game. That was what he said, or at least he implied that. That's how I remember it. Okay. Now that's his opinion. And if he really thinks that, and he says that, then you know what? More power to him. I mean, that's brave, but maybe he's right. I don't think so. His teammates don't seem to think so. But it gives off the impression that, that you don't care about your school. Now, that may not be the case. Maybe he's saying, you know what? I'm going to tell it like I see it. And it really doesn't matter what you think. But sometimes in this business, when you say stuff, the impression that it leaves might not be the impression that you intended, or maybe it is. Who knows? But I think that's where it started for a lot of people with McElroy. Now, my opinion is and I don't know him. I've never met him. I've never hung out with him. I've listened to him on radio though. And when you're on radio, it's a lot different than when you're on TV. When you're on TV, you're just talking about a game and you're kind of just there's a rhythm that goes with it. You're calling the action. When you're on the radio, it's more of who you are. You don't hide your personality. And he comes off like he's the smartest guy in the room. You can hear it in the clip. Hey, he uses Bama and I don't. Okay. And it's a whole radio show of that. And really, my advice on that is ask Cole Kublik what he thinks, because he's an Auburn guy. We don't like Auburn, and he's great. You listen to him and you're like, man, this is the kind of guy I'd like to hang out with, have a beer with this guy. Like, he's cool. He relates to all of the people. You don't get that feeling that Cole Kublik is looking down on the audience. And honestly, I don't know if anyone ever kind of got to you and said, hey, man, a bad thing is when you come off like you're better than your audience, like you're talking over your audience, where you make comments like, hey, well, you guys don't understand this scheme because you didn't play, or whatever. So, I mean, I just think you could ask your partner and maybe improve in that area, or maybe you don't care. But my impression of you is exactly what this clip is from the minute I heard you on radio. You kind of took that shot at Bama Barstool Bama and different, alternative media. Just because you work at ESPN, let me just lay this out for you. It doesn't make you an authority. It just means you get paid more and you work for someone that really controls a lot of the business, and it's great. And no one's holding that against you. But Barstool Bama does a great job too. They're not beholden to a master. They can say whatever they want. Or Sidelines Alabama, or whatever, the other guy you were talking about on there. Even the fact that you mentioned it and the way and the tone that you used saying it gives the impression that, you know what, you got your nose in the air because you work for ESPN. A lot of us don't even like ESPN anymore, to be honest with you. And that may be a surprise to you, but go ask people. Now, the Kayden Proctor situation is what this whole thing's about. And you have your opinion, and you may be right. And I've talked to people that agree with you that Proctor wasn't tampered with. But there's other people that think he was tampered with, including Shank and me. Think that if a coach is calling a player during the season, he is not calling to pat him on the back. He's thinking the exact thing that happened. It's like when somebody's having trouble with their relationship at home, and then all of a sudden this guy at work is talking to your ex-girlfriend about how bad the situation is. Oh, and then they end up dating. I mean, come on, Greg. You got to know better than that. But who cares what you think? Or who cares what anybody thinks? They're opinions, and you're in an opinion business. And Shank has the right to give his opinion, just like you have your right to give an opinion. I've tried to find like what you got so upset about, because I thought it was something that we talked about on our show. And then guess what? We didn't even think about you. Nobody really cared what Greg McElroy said about Proctor transferring. We talked about what we thought. And if you put something out on social media and somebody responds to it, that doesn't call for a personal attack. That's just, hey, that's their opinion and they're entitled to it. The worst thing you said, though, was talking about Shank, questioning the way that he played. You didn't know him, but you heard what a lazy guy he was and how he's the worst ever. Yeah, you know what? He started on the offensive line for a national champion and then had a concussion issue that ended his prospects of playing in the NFL, something that he always dreamed of doing. And we talked about that on our podcast. And he's talked about that in his personal life. You can read stories about it. And look, you're a smart guy. Why don't you Google someone's name next time to figure it out? Shank, I've always loved Shank. I like the fact that what you see is what you get. Don't always agree with his social media, but I love it. I love the fact that the guy's not afraid to go out there and give you an opinion. And you know what? Now he's a little bit more refined, as he says, and he's working with kids in high school. And I know that for you, someone that is, obviously killing it in life between ESPN and Jocks Radio, high school football coach is probably way down on the list. But there's a lot of kids out there that are going to be glad that they have Coach Shank to help them down here. The last thing, though, I mean, as we go through your comments, he uses Alabama and I don't. So you're telling me that had you stayed at Texas Tech and been the quarterback at Texas Tech and not come to Alabama and played for Nick Saban and won a national championship, that you would still be an ESPN commentator and you would be a talk show host in Birmingham? Or would you be doing real estate or oil field or something else, front office? I mean, everyone that goes to Alabama uses Alabama. It's the reason you go there. And it doesn't make anyone less or more or better if they do or they don't. But of all the people in the entire Bama universe to call someone else out for using Alabama, I mean, come on, Greg. You're the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Let me give you some advice. Talk to Cole Kublik about how to relate with people, how not to be the smartest guy in the room. Second thing is get on your radio show tomorrow, take your hat, hold it out, and apologize to Shank and beg for his forgiveness. That's what I would do. That's my advice to you. And next time you think you're going to say something like this, mute your microphone. Maybe you didn't have breakfast. Maybe you're in a bad mood. Maybe you got a hangover from a party last night. But what you did today is going to affect this guy for a long time. And you're going to go back to your mansion and you're going to fly on all your planes and you're going to go do all your stuff. And this guy's going to be down here working with high school kids. And then they're going to read that and they're going to hear about that. You owe him an apology. And I hope you learn something from this. Who knows? Anyway, that's my take. You guys tell me what you thought of it. Maybe it wasn't that offensive to you, but to me, I thought that Greg McElroy crossed the line, and so much so that in my entire life, I've never talked about another broadcaster on the air before, but I couldn't wait to get out here and talk about him. Roll Tide, everybody.